Um, if you didn't want to cook this, meaning if you wanted to create it like in a food processor, if maybe you were in a rush or you're like, oh, last minute I don't have like 50 minutes to make this, you could do it traditional kind of dip style where nothing is cooked and it's just all put in a food processor and then pureed until smooth. It's still equally as delicious. The difference is that when we add our chicken stock, which is about a third of a cup to like a half of a cup to a cup, depending on how kind of loose you want it. The chicken stock is going to bump up the flavor quite a bit. And then it's also, if you have a good quality chicken stock, like I have a chicken bone broth, it increases some of the protein and nutritional values. So, if you are going to use the chicken stock and heat it and warm it up, go ahead and set your pan to your like a nice saucepan to a low. Okay, so it's really important that we don't bitter up any of our garlic. So garlic, I'm gonna grab everything and move it over here. I think I need to be near the window. So I'm gonna bring everything over. What you guys have is some garlic, and I say this in every class that we do. Use what makes you happy in terms of the garlic. If you really like a nice garlic flavor, go ahead and amp it up. I have a minced garlic in here. It's probably a nice, healthy tablespoon. Use what you like. If you feel like you want a little more, you can use a little more. I would use a minced, or even a garlic paste. A garlic powder, if you wanted to add that, you would add that at the very end. You wouldn't cook your garlic powder because then it would turn a little bit bitter. So it's really important that we keep our flame on low so that our garlic does not burn. I grab my pan now. So then we'll be ready. So go ahead and hit that on low, not any higher than that. So it's going to be a really slow cook opportunity. So, and in that low pan, you're going to add your olive oil. Let me up here. If you are using something other than olive oil, you could increase your flame, right? Because our olive oil has a very low heating point. The higher you make your flame, the more of a chance you have of burning your olive oil. So you're going to keep it low consistently, especially when we're sauteing. If you're using a canola or a vegetable or something like that, you could go low to medium, but you just want to watch your garlic. So it's about a tablespoon of your oil. You're going to add your oil in, and you're going to add your garlic. Finely chopped garlic, about 2 cloves is average for if you're using a 19-ounce can of beans. You can use 3 cloves. You can use 4 cloves. You can also add the chopped cloves, or you can add in whole cloves, infuse your oil, and then pull them out. So if you don't want to digest the garlic. I really like the garlic. I think it's a beautiful flavor. It's really heart healthy. Everything about it is good for you. So I'm just going to move everything over here. So go ahead and saute that. And I had my stuff there. I'm going to use the spatula. All right, so we're going to saute our garlic really gently, okay? So it's a really gentle, it should be fragrant. As soon as you start to smell the essence of the oil, you know that you're ready for the next step, okay? As soon as you smell that essence, your garlic has infused your oil. Keep it on low, and you're going to add your chicken broth. You're going to start with a third of a cup. You might increase when we add our beans, depending on how you want your, how loose you want it. So go ahead and add your chicken broth and just go ahead and mix all of that together so that now your chicken broth is essentially infused with all of this garlic. Use a good chicken broth. Use one that you would use for a soup, or use a chicken bone broth. Which they might be called like a raw broth or a bone broth. Use something that you really like the flavor of. High quality. Use a good quality one. Read your labels, make sure the sodium is low, make sure the protein is high. So use a nice one. So you're going to go ahead and add all of that and give it a nice stir. Okay. Once all of that is kind of marrying together. It should not bubble. It should not boil. It's just a really nice kind of glossy simmer. You're going to make sure that's all infused. Once you start smelling all of that, we're going to do the next addition. Your beans. So I'm using, and the recipe, it's a cannelli bean. Okay. So you're draining and rinsing your beans. So they should be really loose. Okay. They shouldn't be wet. They shouldn't be soggy. They shouldn't be slick at all. The reason they need to be rinsed clean of all of the starch that they're in and drained is because we want them to be porous and absorb our chicken. Okay, we want it to absorb the chicken broth. We don't want them to be slick or oily or anything like that from the can because they'll just kind of separate from the broth, and we really want them to kind of marry together. So just the third of a cup of chicken broth, and it's a 19-ounce can. There is a navy bean that is very similar to a cannelli bean, and it works very nicely for a variety of soups and stews and things like that. It does not puree well. So if you happen to have that, you might have to use more than a potato masher for this, okay? But they're right next to each other in the grocery aisle, and I have made the mistake of just looking at the thing and just pulling, and I have the wrong bean. So now this is nice and shiny, simmering. You see that it's infused. Go ahead and add all of your beans. Okay, all of your beans, and just consistently stir it. We don't want it to burn. We want this to nicely, let's stand for this. I want to show you, I'm not letting it hit the, oh, I'm spilling. I don't want it to hit the burn point, right? I don't want anything to burn. If you've got an induction like mine, it's really good because it doesn't smoke really heavily. So we're just stirring, okay? Want to make sure all of your beans are warmed all the way through, and you're going to notice that the broth is going to start to thicken up really nicely. I'm going to show you mine in a minute. Your broth is going to start to disappear. Your beans are going to start to release some of the starch that's naturally in them, and your sauce is going to start to thicken. You can bump up your heat to about a medium. Okay. All right. Any questions too while we're cooking this up? I don't see any in the chat, so we're good. If anybody would like to grab, this is not in there, but if anybody would like to grab a lemon, if you're really into lemon, you can grate a little bit of lemon zest in this at this point if you wanted to. If you don't, you're not into lemon, you don't have to do that, but the lemon zest will add a nice kind of punch to it. It's a nice creamy dip. And when we add in the cheese and it starts to melt, it's going to be really luscious. So the lemon is going to cut some of that. So if you want to do that, you can. My zester was here. I'm going to grab my zester because I'm going to add a little bit in there. I really like lemon. So, oh. So I'm just going to take some, a nice whole lemon, and I'm going to get some zest in there. Optional, okay? Yeah, I could add lemon zest to everything. And then like when your hands smell good, and you can like rub it all over you. Yeah, lemon zest is great in everything, and it just adds a little bit of extra kind of essence to it and a nice fragrance. And then you can add this again at the end. So I'm going to set it to the side because I'll probably do that too. All right, so we are stirring that through. This recipe does not have salt. I did not add salt in this recipe. So if you guys would like to add salt, I would recommend doing it after your addition of the Parmesan cheese. Parmesan is naturally very salty, and it adds a lot of nuttiness as well, which can remind our taste buds of what like salted nuts or roasted peanuts taste like. because it has the same flavor profiles, we might taste or it might remind us of salt without actually adding in any salt. So that's why I don't have it on there. But if you do want to add salt, you can do that at the end after you taste. Okay. So I wouldn't do it right now. I would wait a minute until after we taste. If anybody has any questions, and you're just stirring this through, what I want you to do is, and I'll show this to you here, is you want to, I'm using this to stir, but you want to actually get your beans to a place where if you start to smash them, they break down. Okay, mine are still a little firm, so I'm going to keep going. Go a little higher in terms of your heat. So you want to take your spatula, your wooden spoon, see if you can break them down. I might have to increase my heat just a little bit. See if you can start to break them down. Only when you can start to break them down can we move on to the next step. So we're just going to keep going and going until that happens. When you guys use a food processor for this, it doesn't matter because you're processing it completely. You're draining it and then breaking it down with a blade. We're breaking it down with heat. So it's a little bit different than normal, a little bit different than the way we normally would do it. I'm just gonna see if we can go to the heat a little bit. Any questions? This is, like I said before, it's a really good springtime recipe. It's light and creamy, and you can have it cold, but it has still warming essences from the Parmesan cheese and from olive oil, garlic, but it's still a really good kind of like everyday easy recipe. Just want to make sure I have my fan on so that I can turn this up a little bit more. There we go. I want to get this a little bit hotter. Any questions from anyone yet? No? All right, everyone doing okay? We've got like good thumbs up on the, I just turned my fan on in here, so if you hear that, that's what that is. Any questions at all, just shoot them in the chat. So I'm just gonna recap what we did. We have a nice size saucepan, a nice, like, I don't want to say heavy duty, but a nice sturdy saucepan. Nothing too flimsy because you really want to control your heat. And then we added some olive oil, about a tablespoon of olive oil. We added garlic, 2 cloves of garlic. We let that cook down, infuse our olive oil with our garlic, and then we added in about 1/3 of a cup of chicken broth. Once the chicken broth was nicely infused, we went ahead and added our beans. We're cooking our beans until they're soft and optional. I would say maybe a teaspoon worth of lemon zest. Optional, not in the recipe, but just I saw these lemons, I got them, and I've been using them all week. About a teaspoon. If you'd like to add more later, we can. So that's the only thing that we're up to now, is we're just cooking these down until they are soft. Canned beans are great for a instant shot of protein. Really easy to add to dishes, and these in particular get really creamy. So they replicate the sensation or like the satisfying aspect of heavy cream in our taste buds. They coat the taste buds the same way cream does. So it kind of like almost like tricks your taste buds or your senses into thinking you're eating something really luscious. It's really a high protein bean. Other beans are delicious and good for you, but the problem with them for using them in a recipe like this is that they don't cream up as much. Meaning, if you did this with a black bean, you'd get a nice like paste, but you wouldn't get really a creamy thing. Chickpeas do a great job, but you have to process them really well. So everyone check your beans at this point. Let's see if they break down a little more. Mine are a lot softer than they were a few minutes ago. I'm going to give it about 30 more seconds. Yeah, I can pretty much break them up. So good old potato masher. At this point, if you don't want to use your potato masher, you can take this off the heat, cool it down, a little bit and then put it in the blender or food processor. Don't ever put it in the food processor hot. It can explode. But you can use your potato masher and you're really just going to gently start to mash this up. Mine's going to keep going off and on as I press it. So I'm just going to mash gently. Just a few of them. I could use a little bit more time on the heat. I've got a few of them broken down, but they're still really strong. So breaking them down a little. Chunky, chunky. And I'm just breaking it down. Anybody notice that as you do this, the starches or like the internal kind of creaminess of the beans is starting to release into your chicken broth and you're getting a really viscous broth. You don't have like a clear liquid anymore. It's a little more pasty. So that's really yummy. And that's the stuff that makes your brain think like, oh, this is really fattening and full of flavor and cream, but it's just the inside of the beans that are really good. I do this sometimes, puree beans and put it in like a primavera sauce or even like a butter cheese sauce, just so that it feels a little more like an Alfredo or like a cream sauce. But it's a lot healthier. Now I'm really getting some good action here. I'm going to show you. Switch it around. So now it's a lot creamier. See how that's happening? The more I smash it, the more I'm getting this like really nice cream. I don't think I'm going to need any more than my third cup of chicken broth. If yours is not thickening up as much and it looks a little dry, go ahead and add maybe like a tablespoon of chicken broth at a time until I would say the max is going to be a half a cup. I don't think you need any more than that because our beans are really releasing. Okay. So you see how it's mashing and you're just kind of getting this kind of puree. We've got most of it pureed. Oh my gosh, so good. Most of it is pureed. So that's what you're looking for. I like the potato masher for this. If you're not using a potato masher, you are putting it in a food processor only when it is cold, not hot. If you put it in a food processor, I'm getting a little bubble, so I'm going to go down to a lower heat. If you put it in the food processor when it's hot, it's going to create too much steam and pop the lid off, and you don't want that. So nicely mashed. All right, once it's 3/4 of the way mashed, the good stuff happens. We are going to add our Parmesan cheese. Okay, our Parmesan. Yeah, there we go. Our Parmesan cheese, we have about a cup of Parmesan cheese, okay? You can use grated or shredded. I've got grated. I just had to grate a bunch of it for classes this week, so I just did one job of grating. I could have used shredded. I like shredded better, if I'm honest with myself right now, but I have grated. So you're going to add in a cup, do it in increments, add a little bit, stir, add a little bit more, stir it through, add a little bit more, stir it through. I'm using my potato masher to stir, so I'm sure chefs all over the world are like, what are you doing? But we've already dirtied enough pans this week. All right, so just a little at a time, let it melt through. It's going to start to get a little kind of like cheesy and stringy, so that's why I'm doing increments so that it really creates a nice even cream. It already looks so good. Okay. This is a great dip. The goal tonight is to create this as a dip. You could also use this as a spread on your sandwiches. You could use it as a dressing for a salad. You could use it a dollop of it on like in a quesadilla or on top of a potato, something like that. All right, so I've got all of that mixed in. I'm going to go even lower on my heat. And I'm going to keep mashing, okay? So now that I've got all my cheese in there, I'm just going to keep mashing. It's a little bit thinner than it was before. So I'm going to get all of my beans. Oh, it smells like melted cheese, like lemon, like garlic. It smells really good. You're going to start to get a little bit of cheese. Like you can see my cheese pull a little bit there. You're going to start to get a little bit of that. The only ingredient we have not used yet is our parsley. We're going to fold that in at the end, okay? Because we like to keep that nice and fresh. Okay. All right, so I've got this as pureed as I want it. I like a little bit of texture, but if you don't want any texture and you want it completely creamy all the way through, just go ahead and keep mashing, okay? Just mash until you've got the texture that you want. The time's going to go at the end as well. Yeah, if I wasn't sure if I had time on your recipe because it's not common. You can use fresh or dried thyme, either one. If you're using dry, you can add it in now because you want a little bit of heat. If you're using fresh, you're going to use it at the end. Same thing with the parsley. If you're using dry, you can add it now. If you're using fresh, we're going to leave it for the end. The dry herbs need a little bit of heat or moisture to almost like reactivate. So if you're going to use your dried thyme or dried parsley, it's about a teaspoon of the thyme and about 1 to 2 tablespoons of the parsley, depending on how you like it. Add that now and stir it through. I'm going to do at the end. My kids they're not into the herbs right now, which is a new thing. I think because it was so cold and there was a lot of like roasting and warming and earthy herbs like rosemary. I did a lot of rosemary. We did a lot of sage. I did have a lot of thyme for a while. They got really into that. And now when I put parsley on something the other day and they were like, tastes like grass. We don't want this. So if your taste buds need a little bit of help finding their transition from winter flavors to spring flavors, start with the dry, incorporate dry and a little bit of dry, a little bit of fresh. And then little by little start to remove the dry and only go to fresh. You know how like when you change your like dog's food, you got to put a little bit of new food with a little bit of the old food. Do that and then slowly kind of incorporate the fresh stuff into it. It's especially parsley. I've been finding this with tomatoes too, basil, because it tastes different in the winter than it will in the spring and summer. You kind of like have to retrain a lot of your taste buds. All right, so I'm gonna stand up again and give this a stir. So it has thickened heavily for me with the addition of the cheese. So I'm gonna show you my thumb. I'm going to show you how thick it is. This is what you want. See that? It almost looks like paste or a very thick like chowder. So you want a really nice, thick, spoonable dip, okay? So that's the consistency that you want. This is how thick you want it. You want it really viscous, okay? So if anybody wants to share what theirs look like, let us know. You know, are you getting there? If it's thin and you need for it to thicken up a little bit more, go ahead and move up to a slightly hotter heat, slightly hotter, and slowly let it bubble until it thickens. The more heat that you provide under your broth, the more it's going to let the water pop up in the steam bubbles and evaporate, right? Does that make sense? So that's when we're thickening something and we increase the heat, we're forcing the water that's kind of hidden in the food to find its way up, steam bubble, and escape. So get that action going. I have a thick enough like consistency where I don't want that. So I'm avoiding all bubbles because if I create bubbles with a really thick consistency, it'll start to caramelize in the bottom. I don't want that. So I'm as low as I can be. If you need for it to thicken, it's going to be stretchy. Yes, it's going to be a little stretchy because of the cheese, depending on how much cheese you added. I think, what did we add? I think my recipe was like 1 cup of cheese. That's really melty and very stretchy. So it's going to start to be almost like goopy. I don't, in a good way. But yes, it's gonna feel that way because of the cheese. I like my consistency, so I'm gonna turn mine completely off. I had it on low. I'm gonna turn it off, and I'm gonna just let it cool down a little bit. This is essentially meant to be served maybe with like warmed carrots, or delicious with warm asparagus, maybe like a grilled veggie plate if you want to have it warm. If you want to have it cooled, it's an endless possibilities. Like I said, sandwich spread, salad spread, dips, dollop it onto your soup instead of like a sour cream. Add it to your quesadilla. Um, Add a spoon of it to your pasta. It adds this creaminess. The lemon, a little bit of tartness. So it adds a lot of, it's just a lot of opportunity, and it's heart healthy because of all of the ingredients: garlic, olive oil, and beans. Great for you. I'm letting it cool down, so I am going to add a little bit more of my lemon zest. I like to add it when it's a little warm because the oils in my lemon are just going to kind of dissipate throughout. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little more lemon zest. We added about a teaspoon before. I'll probably do half of that. Right, nice. Really fragrant. Got almost, this whole thing is like almost empty now. Really lemony, like right at the beginning, right when we first put it in, and now I'm just going to stir it through so that I get a nice extra bit of lemon essence in there. And as soon as it's cool enough where you don't think it's going to like damage your herbs at all, you don't want it super hot, but nice and cool. I have to really scrape on the sides because it's starting to, I'll show you. I got a little bit of dry dip there, dry bean. Very good. It'll stick to the sides. That's normal. So if you see it sticking to your sides, just scrape it in. It's still edible. It just needs to hydrate. Um, Smells really, really. It smells like a pastina or like a Parmesan baguette. You know, a lot of I can smell the cheese. I can smell the lemon, but it's still, even though it's beans, it's got that like starchy comfort that I like. Yes, yeah. It's gonna be like a biscuit batter or something like that. If it's too thick for you, Ellen, if you feel like, oh, this is not dippy enough for me, it's too thick, just go ahead and add a little bit more um broth or a little olive oil if you want. If you like it that way, then that's great. As this cools, it will thicken, okay? And you can always like reconstitute it or loosen it up with a little bit of olive oil or a little more broth, or if you really want to get like extra with the lemon, squeeze some lemon in there and work it through and it'll loosen up. I'm going to transfer it to a serving bowl here. I'm using the same bowl that I use for my broth. I'm just going to put it in here. So you can see it is very thick, very viscous. There we go. And once it's on in your bowl, go ahead and add your herbs. If you're using fresh thyme, you're going to sprinkle that on. If you're using fresh parsley, you're going to sprinkle that on. Gently work it through. You're going to notice they wilt a little bit, which is fine. It's okay if they wilt, right? Because we want the oils that are in them to dissipate and flavor our dip as much as possible. You can also reserve using those herbs for service, meaning I've made this in advance. I might put a lid on it, put it in the fridge, bring it to a picnic tomorrow, bring it to work tomorrow. I'm going to bring a little Ziploc baggie or a little condiment cup of fresh herbs. And before I serve it or before I display it, I'm going to sprinkle my herbs on. I recommend that anytime you do a potluck or anything like that, just bring a little fresh herbs, maybe a little tiny bag, little tiny cup of herbs and cheese, and sprinkle whatever it is that you're serving, that you're offering with that. And especially if it's warm, the heat will activate the oils and the flavors in the thing that you're sprinkling on top, and it creates a much more fragrant, like exciting kind of potluck, if that makes sense. How does everyone's look? Does it look like appetizing? Are you ready to eat it, ready to taste? I'm going to give mine a little taste. At this point, I do want everyone to taste and decide if you want to add salt. Okay. So I'm going to give mine a taste. I love the lemon. I really love the lemon. If you did not add the lemon or you didn't have lemon, that's fine. I'm a lemon, like right now I'm feeling lemon, so I added it in. So I like that I'm like indulging that for myself. I do not need any salt. The Parmesan cheese was salty enough for me and very nutty and very hearty, so I do not need any salt. Go ahead, everybody, give it a taste. Decide if you need some salt. I also didn't add my herbs yet because I want to give it to my kids first, and then I'm going to add my herbs. They're teenagers, and we're going back to I don't want to eat the green stuff, so it ebbs and flows with them. But I don't need any more salt. If you taste it and you feel like you need salt, start with a little bit, work it through, and then taste again and decide if you want more. I also did not add black pepper to this or white pepper, any kind of pepper. I like that it's brighter in flavor and not as, I want to say, like earthy. It's spring. It's spring to me. It's above ground, and black pepper and peppers are more like earthy and below ground. So I don't want that. I want this to be kind of like a really nice, vibrant flavor, but still really satisfying. It is really, it's good in the sense that it tastes like Parmesan bread. And you can definitely dip some bread in there because of all the Parmesan that we added to it. So it has that like nutty saltiness, but it's still really satisfying. And the protein is very filling and very fibrous. So it's healthy all around. How is everyone's looking? Does it make sense? I know I'm rambling on about all these things. So let me know if you guys have questions, how yours looks, how it tastes. Everybody give us like a little update on the taste opportunity. Yeah, I don't think I need anything else in it. The fresh herbs give it a little bit of a bright, yeah, it's delicious, right? Like a bright flavor. With carrots, it's great because carrots are really sweet. Oh, good. I'm glad everyone's liking it. Carrots are sweet, so you have like a nice juxtaposition when you have like a warm carrot or a crunchy carrot, and you dip it in there, so you're getting like the sweet and the savory. Snap peas are also really good with this because they're really sweet and snappy and crunchy, and I like that composition, right? The savory richness and then the sweet snap of the veggies. Pita chips are also really good with this. So if you have bread, pita bread, make it into triangles, give it a little bit of a toast, maybe a little bit of olive oil on it. Use that as a dip. Pretzels are really good also, and bread. So I never there's no throwing out of bread. The end of breads, even like sliced breads, Ziploc, freeze it, take it out, toast it, and then flavor it, season it, and use it as a crostini. Bagel crisps are really good with this. And then just plain old tortilla chips. If that's what you have, you can use them. Don't get I wouldn't use the salted ones with this because I feel like that's too much. But you don't have to go buy something to dip in this. Definitely try it instead of like mayonnaise on a sandwich. I think it's great. Cucumbers. Cucumbers with this are delicious. And you know what? I have seen people starting to do is use this in lieu of like a tartar sauce or like a ranch in 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 certain like like fish fries and buffalo dips and things like with the cauliflower buffalo, and you kind of dip it in your blue cheese or whatever using this instead of it. So I like that I thought that was really creative because it's a lot healthier than a lot of the dips. Did everybody give it a taste? This was a quick one tonight. Tomato soup too. I'm feeling like if you're still eating soup, if it's still soup season for you, you can put a little dollop of this in your tomato soup and work it through, make it nice and creamy and parmesan-y, and add a little change to it. Yeah, sourdough would be really good too. I would the flavors of sourdough would go really nice with this. Um, um, fresh black pepper is good. Yeah, see, that's what I feel about the tortillas too. The tortilla chips. I feel like they're a little too salty for the maybe it's the Parmesan that doesn't work for me. So yeah, I think tortilla chips in general just have a lot of salt. And I like them. But I don't like them with this. I like something more neutral in the stance of like a carbohydrate, like a little more neutral. And if it's a vegetable, I want it to be snappier and sweeter, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't do, yeah, I'm glad you gave it a try because I think that's instinctive. It's like, oh, dip and chip. Not for this one. This one is not one that's gonna need kind of like the saltiness or like the texture of a chip. Try the veggies. Cucumber is great. Like I mentioned, slice it into the shape of a chip and use that. Um, the cold stuff, let it cool off a little bit. Let your dip cool off. Your warmer stuff, like if you're going to put it on a warm sandwich or a crostini, um, then you can have it warm. I love these. They're not great for the environment, but these little containers, I use them a lot for prep, and then I put my stuff in them, and then I can take it with me. Um, but it's it's Tupperware friendly, so you can heat it up if you need to, the dip, or just leave it cold, however you like. But I'm glad you tried the chips because I know some people think like, yeah, I think a water cracker is good. Something that's more neutral, like those herby crackers are good. Um, is it Sam's Club? Maybe Costco or Sam's Club. They have like the variety pack, and in there's a flax cracker that's really good, and I think that would be really nice. Um, but nothing that has like a baked in saltiness. And it's surprising because we didn't add salt, or maybe you did add a little bit of, to taste. Um, it doesn't need a lot of that flavor. Because it is so flavorful. The reason the flavor is so unique um is with the steps that we did, right? So we added our olive oil and we infused that olive oil slowly with garlic. Then we added our chicken broth and we used a good quality chicken broth. So you have the flavors of that and then a nice kind of infusing of the garlic into that broth. And once that was all fragrant and flavorful, then we added our beans. So the beans were like a sponge for all of those flavors. So if we had done it, like let's say if you did it in the food processor, it might not be as flavorful. It'll still absorb, but it's different. It's gonna be a different kind of dip. Um, the beans really open up when we smash them with the good old fashioned, like grandma approved potato masher. They break open, and as they're being broken open, they're absorbing liquid. Break open, absorbing liquid. When we put them in a food processor, we're essentially just like blitzing them and breaking them and pureeing them. When we mash them over the low heat with the infused broth, every time we mash, it absorbs some liquid. We mash, they open up, they absorb, and we kind of like repeat that. That's why it's so flavorful. If you put it in the food processor, if anybody did it, I'm sure it's delicious. It's just not going to have those layers that this has. And it's awesome to get that kind of layered flavor without the addition of like sodiums and salts and artificial things. Um, so I hope that makes sense to everyone. I would try this with other things. Try it with the chickpeas, and you can do like a warm chickpea dip. Black beans are not going to work as well, and red beans are not going to work as well. Um, fava beans, if you guys can get some good fava beans, you have to soak them and then boil them and then drain them. But fava beans make an amazing, amazing puree, amazing dip, really hearty, really luscious, really fibrous, just very, very like unique and delicious. I'll definitely do a fava bean class. Because it's like I feel like it's the unsung hero of the legumes. It's just a delicious bean. So that would be great to try with this. Um, Experiment a little bit with maybe mixing and matching some beans. Um, and then you can start to add things to it. Chop up a tomato when the season comes, work some tomato in there. If you like raw peppers, chop up red and yellow and orange peppers really finely and work it through. All of your fresh herbs that you're going to start getting in your garden. Um, Zucchini, if you want to grate a zucchini, it's going to have a lot of moisture. So grate it, drain it, and then work it through. You can start to use this as your base and just, be a little more unique with your additions. Last time we met, we did a curry cauliflower, which I eat it like once a week. Um, you could definitely do a variation of that. Like take your curried cauliflower and use that to dip in here, or pour this on top of the curry cauliflower, or add the curry into this, and you can have a little like international style dip. I hope that makes sense. Any questions, thoughts? I'm glad everybody's tasted it and tried it. This is an easy one. This is a good one to do with kids because, I mean, aside from the heat, if you have one of these things, it's really safe. This is a great tool, fine motor skill tool for kids to use. You can get it in a big bowl, get them working at it, and it gets them excited about eating beans. A lot of kids like rice and beans, and then all of a sudden they wake up one day and decide they don't like it. When rice and beans is one of the more like popular, like fibrous meals that you can give like a toddler. So this might be a good way to get them back on that. Any other thoughts or anything? You know what you think.
Yes. Does anyone have any last minute questions?
It's quite thick, and I'm wondering, you said once you put it in the refrigerator, it's going to thicken even more?
Yeah. So what I would do if it's looking really thick, stir through either some more of the chicken broth or a little bit of olive oil,
Right.
or some lemon juice, and it'll loosen it up a little bit. When beans cool, they starch up. So this is going to be like pasty in the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
So let it sit out. Don't put it in the fridge right away. Let it sit out and just stir through some liquid. Like mine's starting to look really thick now too as it cools off. So you're just going to add in some liquid and just fold it all the way through. So either olive oil, maybe a couple tablespoons of olive oil, or a little bit more of the broth,
Mm-hmm.
and look that through. If you have another can of beans too, we drained the liquid off of this, but if you use the liquid from the beans, if you have another can of beans and drop some liquid in there, it won't compromise any of the flavor. Because the more liquid we add, like the more your flavor is going to get a little more diluted. So if you have another can of beans, you can add some of the bean liquid in there. And that'll do it. And then you're just going to find the sweet spot on the consistency that you like.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right. And then, like, say tomorrow, I don't need to reheat it. I can just eat it cold.
Oh yeah, I would eat it cold for sure.
Yeah.
When you have it cold, it's more like one of the like a hummus style, right? And then if you have it warm, it's more of like I can add it to a soup, I can put it on a sandwich, I can, have it with warm veggies. But yeah, this is good because you can do it both ways. But I love it cold. I probably eat it cold more often than I eat it warm.
Mm.
And then and then my kids will like put it in little like takeout cups and bring it to school with them as like a veggie dip thing. So it's really
Mm.
popular for like a veggie dip or crostini, like toasted bread. Just put it on there and maybe some tomatoes or sun-dried tomatoes or cucumber or whatever. But yeah, it's delicious cold. I probably eat it more often cold, but I like to prepare it this way because it's more flavorful this way. If you just
Right.
food processor, it's good. And if anybody did it, I'm sure it's delicious. But your layers aren't there. And the goal with a lot of these recipes is to do layers of flavor so that it just stands out.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yes, very easy, right? Easy, hearty, healthy, um, inexpensive. I think this recipe probably this week was a couple bucks, right? Didn't cost us a lot. Get beans when they're on sale, keep them in your pantry. Olive oil we usually have as a staple. Your herbs are probably the most expensive thing right now, but once we start growing them, you'll have them on standby. If you use the lemon, cool. If not, don't worry about it. And then the broth, right? So usually we don't. If you had to open up the broth just for a third of a cup, you're probably annoyed with me. But you can use it in other things, right? And if you used a bone broth, you can sip it. It's a good time to sip bone broth as as the weather changes and germs and people getting sick. Bone broth is really a nice kind of just sipping liquid. Keep yourself healthy. Um, So a very inexpensive recipe, great thing to make for a crowd, feed a lot of people with it, very satisfying, very filling, and very inexpensive.
What is wasa bread? Is that
It-
what you wrote down?
Somebody added that. It's like a crisp bread. It almost looks like a toast, like a very light toast. You could find it in like the cracker section. And it's very good, very flavorful, very porous, so it's nice. It's firm, so it'll hold the weight of the dip, but it's also it'll absorb a lot of flavor. So it's good. They have it in different grains, like you might find it in a dark grain or a light grain. But it's in the cracker section and you'll find it. I feel like we ate a lot of it in the 80s when we thought like, you know, like low cal eating was the way to go. And I feel like wasa bread is pretty low cal, pretty healthy. So it had its moment in the 80s, but it's definitely coming back into popularity with all of the charcuterie that's happening. People love
Mm.
charcuterie plate, and you'll find different crackers and crisps. It's like a bread crisp. You'll see it more often on menus or like on boards. So yeah, check it out. It's in the cracker section. Find a lot of fun stuff there.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today
Yay.
for this delicious recipe. I can't wait to try it out.
Yeah, this one's good. Did I? And I don't. We did the curry last time, the curry cauliflower, which I know
Yes.
is a new recipe for a lot of people. So I don't know if anybody actually tried that one or if they might try it. I definitely recommend it. If you
Yes.
haven't. So, you know, if anybody ever wants to like look back at everything that we've cooked, shoot me an email
Mhm.
at the kitchen info Green Apron Kitchen, and I can go through everything and share
Okay.
recipes again.